On to another player who usually isn't afraid to speak his mind. Odell Beckham Jr., after receiving a lot of scrutiny from the media and fans about the Giants' weekend of partying in Miami down at Live, Odell has decided to stay hush-hush on the matter.
Right now, I'm really more focused on the Packers and the Giants. So any of those questions, whenever y'all want to sit down and have a little side-to-side, we could do that after the playoffs.
Odell, but there was a report that there were a lot of drugs being handed out on the boat.
Like I said, we're focused on the Packers and the Giants. So anything else doesn't really bother me.
Mark, a little out of character for Odell Beckham. Normally he answers questions, choosing not to speak about the Miami trip. Are you good with this?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think his head coach did a great job, and Eli Manning did a great job of diffusing. He did the best job. Yeah. So it's been diffused to a certain point. Mm-hmm. If you continue to answer questions about it, you know what? You're going to continue to get more questions about it. So I get that. The focus now becomes the Green Bay Packers and going on that trip. And I've said this many, many times before. In the overall scheme of things, their day off, they can do what they want with it. I always ask myself this as a player. Are my actions the most beneficial thing I could be doing for this team? And when you get into the playoffs like this, after a long, arduous season, what does the coach always say to you? Get off your feet, get some rest, take care of your body. And I would say, is this the best way to get that done? And my answer would be, for me, absolutely not. I would never, ever do it. Did I have teammates that ran to Vegas if they had a day and a half off? You're dang right I did, right?
And did some of them ball afterwards?
Right, and as long as they play great, here's the issue. The last 5 weeks, they've been putrid. You're a Giants fan. Yeah. They've been anemic on the offensive side of the ball. So you open yourself up to scrutiny. Mm-hmm. If you go out to Green Bay and you don't produce offensively, then you open yourself up to scrutiny. That's all. I wouldn't make it for myself. I would never make that decision for myself. But, to each his own. And if that gets them ready to go and they feel good about it, then that's them.
Odell's now got a ball, and they got to win because he's the face of the team. I agree with that. I would say he handled this exactly right at this point. It's been diffused by McAdoo and obviously very well by Eli. Mm-hmm. And if everyone's lockstep, as long as the team got the message, we're not answering questions about this, because you could argue, well, if he doesn't answer, they go to a teammate. Now the teammate's got to deal with it. Right. But as long as that's a team-wide policy, Odell is killing it right here and saying, I'm just going to talk about the game. Works for Bill Belichick, by the way. Mm-hmm. I'm only going to focus on the game. And I'll tell you something else. It's not just the message, it's the way he delivered it. He didn't come off like a jerk. He wasn't recalcitrant. He wasn't obnoxious about this or surly. He did it with a smile. He said, look, we'll talk about it on the side after the playoffs, but right now I'm not going to do it. I think Odell handled this exactly right at this point.
I hope he continues to handle it.
I think he handled it right. The point is, he shouldn't have put himself in that position to begin with. You have a playoff game this week, and he did nothing wrong. He didn't commit any crimes. He didn't do anything like that. But we are religiously told how complicated football is, how taxing it is physically and emotionally, and all of this other stuff, and do everything that you can to maximize your potential, particularly when you're asking the paying customer to patronize your product, your brand, and to support you emotionally as well. Folks who pay their money to watch you play need to feel like you're as invested, if not more so, as they are. It could be wrong, it could be misconstrued, but that's the reality. He handled it correctly, but he shouldn't have been in this position to begin with. In the end, also, I'd like to add this, and I've religiously said this over the years doing radio. I go back to how he handled this whole press conference yesterday. I go back to the whole Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky scandal. I think the whole big problem with all of that is that he didn't tell the world to mind your damn business. It's between me and my wife. I ain't answering nothing. What you gonna do, impeach me because I refuse to answer your question? You go right ahead. And I'd have left it at that. But you're sitting there trying, that depends on the definition of what is and all of this other stuff. You get yourself in trouble when you're trying to explain stuff, and you get yourself in trouble when you put yourself in tenuous situations.
Don't put it on social media. Don't put it on Front Street.
Here is one of the other issues that you have to really talk about, right? You are an exceptionally gifted athlete and an exceptionally gifted player. And you can do things and you can show up and let your talent overcome anything else on the football field. You know what? Not everybody's that talented. And as a leader, as a guy that people look up to because of that extreme talent, are you sending a message to those younger players that maybe not have, that don't have the same talent as you, that this is an okay way to prepare?
No question. Sterling Shepard is with him. He's a rookie. Coming up next.
My last years at Florida State, 65 or 70% of my boys did not have a daddy at home. They're raised by mamas, them sweet old mamas, you know. Thank God for them mamas. Or grandmama. Many times it was grandmama, you know, or big sister or aunt. But where's the man? A boy needs a male figure. And the girls do too, you know, somebody to discipline them and make them be a man. You know, I used to kid about this. They grow up and want to be like their mama. They want to be a man like their mama. But that's the way they were raised.
Right.
That's why they wear earrings.
It feels when somebody comes across this in the way that Bobby Bowden does, it's just kind of broad slander of black men, as if there are no black men worth a damn anywhere to be found that can help guide these dudes when they're young. And there are black men out here working their behinds off all over the place doing that before they ever get to Bobby damn Bowden.
Okay, so there's that. That was former college football coach Bobby Bowden speaking on Mike and Mike yesterday, and our Bomani Jones reacting. Max, I want to start with you here. What do you make of Bowden's comments?
I think he was talking from his own experiences, and he's not, Bomani is educated obviously in a different way.
Yeah.
And I can imagine an African-American person feeling a certain kind of way about an old white guy talking about, as Bomani brought up, black families. And on the other hand, I feel as though, and these are coaches, these are not doctors, they don't have PhDs in these kind of subjects that would allow them to speak in an educated way or even in a way that you think when you hear it, you go, oh yeah, that's true, that sounds true. And yet I feel as though when there is, and by the way, if you say something publicly, it's fair game for criticism.
Of course.
And here Bomani is fairly criticizing what he heard. And yet there is a part of me that thinks, for example, the point about earrings. Bobby Bowden brought up, he saw a lot of players wearing earrings, and he related that somehow to the fact that there weren't fathers home, so they were imitating their mothers. Now, I doubt that's true, and it doesn't sound very smart, but I'd never considered that. It was a thought that I hadn't considered, and when I considered it, I pretty quickly dismissed it. And I'm sure there's scholarship on men wearing earrings in this country, and maybe it's related. I don't know. Once Bobby Bowden said that, that's interesting. I wonder if it's related not just along racial lines, but to divorce rates starting in the 1970s. Whatever. The point, I'm sure there's scholarship on it, and you're not going to get that from Bobby Bowden. But when there is immediate criticism of someone expressing an idea that's maybe not that well thought out in a way that paints them maybe as a bad person, it dissuades others from a kind of public discourse of ideas, and I don't know that we're the richer for it. Of course, Bomani was, I believe, right in what he said, but I also wouldn't want to think that there's an atmosphere where people don't feel safe, not from criticism, but maybe even comfortable, simply making an observation publicly.
I had no problem with what Bobby Bowden said, and I actually disagree with Bomani Jones, and I say that respectfully. Now, to put this on Front Street, Bomani Jones is not just smart. This is a brilliant brother who ESPN should be very, very proud to have as a radio host. I love me some Bomani
So is
Jones.
the right time.
That's right, the right time. I mean, this radio show is the joint. There's no question about it. Got a lot of love for him. And I will be leading, into his show because I'm going to be on ESPN Radio in New York and LA and, of course, on the Sirius XM Channel 80 channel starting January 16th. Thank you so much.
What time can we find that?
1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time every weekday. Here's the deal. I respectfully disagree with Bomani Jones because of the tenor of his arguments, not the words he was saying. Tenor of it. I did not hear Bobby Bowden say black.
Okay.
I did not hear Bobby Bowden say black boys. I heard him say who he coached. Okay? That means black and white players. I also heard him say, he says boy all the time. Now, I saw him yesterday. He said, it's great to see you, boy. First thing he said. Now, to those out there, understand, black folks, we don't take kind of that. We don't like that too much. If it came from you, or it came from somebody my age, this man 87 years old. This man been communicating like this all his life. Not to mention the fact that I'm listening to my radio show with Dave Rothenberg filling in for me. He called Dave boy. This is how he talks to younger folks, devoid of race. So what I'm saying is that you have to contextualize things at times. When I listen to Bobby Bowden, I don't listen to a man or talk to a man where I see an individual who's talking to somebody based on their ethnicity. That's how he communicates generationally. Now, he might not call a Nick Saban that, or he might not call somebody older that, but somebody that is younger, he may call that. Now, if you don't like it, you can correct him if you so choose to, or whatever the case may be, but I don't take it as him literally directing his comment at black men devoid of father figures. I didn't hear that come out of his mouth. And so because I didn't hear that, and I take into account his age, and I take into account the fact that I've heard him and literally seen him on occasions in the past talk to younger white men exactly the same way that he talked to younger black men, I did not embrace it and adopt it as if he were directing his comment at black people.
Let me weigh in here because I have a different take. And I'm not giving him a pass for being 87 years old. And let's take race out of it. So he's stating that 65% about the players that he coached didn't have fathers. So that's a fact. That's fine. I'm good with that. But I don't appreciate the joke. And maybe it has nothing to do with race. I don't appreciate the shot. It's reminiscent of George Karl for somebody not having a father. It's a blatant insult for somebody that comes from a single-parent home. I don't appreciate it. I don't think it's funny. And I don't think because you're 87 years old, that makes it okay.
Well, what I would say to you is that I didn't take it that way.
He's saying you want to be like your mom and you're wearing earrings. Like, that's not okay. That's not funny.
It was. I don't think he was trying to be funny.
I kind of make a joke about it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I think maybe he's trying to couch it in such a way that he's able to make an observation to state a fact. Now, once you say it publicly, you can expect it, and it can be fairly criticized, as Bomani did. My point is, and I'm not saying that ignorant speech should always be defended, but at least that we are not living in a culture where there can be no exchange of ideas, even of wrong-headed ones. If the intention is benign.
Not just that, exactly. The intention is benign is the key point. But Molly, I respectfully disagree with you. I have to say this, and here's why. Because whether you don't like the remark or not, the operative word is benign. You cannot associate anything benign with what George Karl said and did. George Karl is writing a book, and I love to...
took a shot at people for not having fathers.
Wait a minute.
And this is essentially what this
But what I'm trying to say to you is this. Again, he was explaining something that was benign. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I can respect that. Just like I respect where Bomani Jones is coming from. But George Karl is writing a book. George Karl talked about absentee fathers and how they weren't around to teach these specific players how to be men, which he was saying Carmelo's not a man, Kenyon Martin's not a man, J.R. Smith is not a man, etc., etc. He was on attack. That is not what I got from Bobby Bowden listening to him yesterday. That's all I'm saying.
And one other thing that I want to add for what it's worth is I have a lot of family members that wear earrings. I'm not black. Some have fathers, some don't. All right, coming up at the end of the show, Stephen A. will have his final take.
I mean,
It'll also be strong. Stephen A., what are you getting into today?
Let's just say the city of Chicago will appreciate where I'm coming from. And I'll leave it at that.
Chi-Town, stand up.
Chi-Town.
We're looking forward to it.
Here I come.
Coming up after the break.